The U.S. President's tax bill inches forward after a special weekend vote at the Congressional Budget Committee approved the proposed bill.
The ayes have it. The motion's agreed to. The One Big Beautiful Bill Act is ordered, reported favorably to the House of Representatives with a favorable recommendation. I note for the record that a quorum is present.
The proposed legislation, which Trump calls his Big Beautiful Bill, will implement substantial tax cuts and approve a border security package. Despite getting a passage in the House of Representatives, Trump's tax bill has not been widely accepted by his own party. Trump's administration has conducted a relay of meetings with Republican lawmakers who had several reservations about the implication of this bill, particularly on the Americans receiving Medicaid. Ahead of the vote on Sunday, Speaker Mike Johnson met with GOP leaders to discuss suggested changes and bring the rebel lawmakers on board with the vote. This comes as a major win for the U.S. president after the bill failed to get a majority vote in the first round of voting earlier, when 5 Republicans had voted against it. However, on Sunday, the bill got a green light after the measure passed by a vote of 17 against 16. After the Budget Committee's approval, House Speaker Mike Johnson will now aim to introduce the bill on the House floor before the end of the week. Adele Nazarian is a senior media fellow, Gold Institute for International Strategy. She's now joining us live on this broadcast. Good to see you, Adele, and thank you for joining us at this hour. There was a huge setback when this bill was not voted by 5 Republican representatives, and there was a huge hue and cry after that. But now the bill has passed. What are the implications of this bill? What are the Republicans, or those 5 Republicans, what were they afraid of? Let's start from there.
Absolutely. Great to be back on with you again. The 5 Republicans were arguably the most right-wing conservative of the Republican Party currently representing the party. Chip Roy, Andrew Clyde, Ralph Norman, Josh Breachin, and Lloyd Schmucker. Sorry about that. So basically, they were concerned, for example, that there would be delayed Medicaid work requirements. They want to, part of the bill, the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, love the name, by the way, is proposing basically implementing an 80-hour per month work requirement for Medicaid recipients starting in 2029. But the dissenting Republicans initially, they argued that this delay was unacceptable and that they advocated for having immediate implementation to ensure fiscal discipline. They wanted to be now, right? They don't want to spend another 2, 3 years, 4 years waiting for it to actually come into effect. Billions of more dollars are being spent, basically. Also, they thought that the spending cuts that were proposed by the president through this bill were $1.5 trillion were not sufficient. They actually were advocating for even more or deeper spending cuts, actually, to reduce federal spending even more immediately. And they were concerned that there was a lack of transparency and just procedural concerns overall. But finally, as you know, at the end, 4 of the 5 actually voted present instead of actually voting for the bill, allowing for it to go through. But they did indicate that there would need to be more reforms in order for the president and Speaker Johnson and the party to gain their full support in seeing this implemented thoroughly. So the implications are that, let's say, it's gone through this one big passage, which is a very big step forward. But I think that they're going to have these backdoor negotiations, talks, and kind of, decide if they could do even more to appease those, 5 lawmakers who will basically be hinging on whether or not the next step of this is able to go through and be implemented. Even more cuts, probably. President Trump, as we all know, this time around, the first time he was doing this also, he's not a traditional conservative president. He's taking the best of all the parties, and he's doing what's best for the country. And I think that this is also indicative that these aren't extremely conservative, parts of the bill. So he's definitely going to face opposition from the more, let's say, right-wing factions of the party because of that.
Let's talk about the next hurdle, because it's headed now to Congress, and Speaker Mike Johnson will present it at the Congress. If it does go through the Congress, what is the impact that this big, beautiful bill will have on Americans and the world?
Okay, so it's definitely going to hurt a lot of pockets. We know this. Unfortunately, when the government is the biggest employee in the United States, employer in the United States, and considering what DOGE has been able to accomplish so far, I've been speaking to everyday Americans, both in the U.S. and abroad, who have either themselves directly felt the impact of the job cuts, the slashes, and are fearful for what's coming, or know people who are being directly affected. I mean, we're also seeing the cost of groceries, but this is a temporary, unfortunately, difficult time. I think that, of course, the next step for this is that it has to go through, it's going to be reviewed by the House Rules Committee, probably sometime this week, and then they'll basically introduce and establish terms for a floor debate where there's probably going to be even more opinions that are going to be dissenting or, in favor, or change it. And then it's going to advance to the Senate, where there'll be basically filibuster. They have to have a, I think, 60 vote filibuster for it to hold the threshold. And then we'll see if it can arrive on the president's desk by Speaker Johnson by the 4th of July. What a symbolic day, right? So it's people are, of course, feeling the bite. They're feeling the pain of what's been happening, which, of course, is an offshoot of a result of President Biden's presidency, and may God protect him. I know that he was just diagnosed with a very advanced stage of prostate cancer, very horrible. But I think that hopefully, trustfully, all things go well within a year or so, if not less. I think the economy will start adjusting itself again.
All right.
But there are to be a lot of implications of this. Obviously, people are going to lose their jobs, and it's going to be, a tough time ahead for some.
All right. Tough time ahead for some, indeed. I've been talking to Adele Nazarian. Good to see you. We'll have to leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you.